invite the other panelists.
You can sit in the middle.
I'm happy that we have this next panel, which is, as per my watch, running 30 minutes late, which is fine. So we have a panel which is looking at agroecology, urban farming, and climate. As we had the first panel, which was mostly connecting the organics and climate, we have now a very interesting panel. I'll invite the panelists to the floor. We have Shamika, Mone. One happiness is that when we talk about agroecology, in my panel of 5, 3 are farmers. Please come. And Shamika is also a farmer, but she's also slightly bigger than a farmer. I would like to say she's global president of Intercontinental Network of Organic Farmers Organization. So it is a slightly bigger constituency which she brings. We have Raditya from Indonesia. Galih? Yeah, please come. And again, Galih also claims to be a farmer. I'm not sure. I need to go to Indonesia to verify whether he's a farmer. Kidding. We have probably Galih brings a huge expertise of running gardens, a garden group in the urban cities, which is really doing well. And then I have the pleasure to invite Sruthi Pillai. Sruthi is, in her bio, she says she's a dissolution engineer, like most of us are dissolution people who are engineering futures. So we also think that you perfectly fit into the group of us. She's in IIT Mumbai. We have Sijo Abraham from CEEW. Sijo, please come to the stage. Then we have Rajendra Hegde. To some extent, Sijo and Sruthi is bringing the technical scientific backgrounds, and so a quick take on agroecology. If we look at the term agroecology, it is very old. It is kind of founded by a agriculture scientist working on soil, a soil biologist, soil agriculturist. So again, as Professor Ismail said, soil plays a big role, not as fertile, but a healthy soil. So a healthy soil is where agroecology has a big point. And it is also, I just take a moment to remember Rachel Carson, because after Rachel's passing away, her colleagues and students of Rachel assembled in Mexico to think what will be a tribute to Rachel and the brilliant book, The Silent Spring. And many of them came to an idea of agroecology as a combination of agriculture and ecology as a discipline, and that was in 1969. And we are now in 2024 talking about agroecology, which means that we are talking about a historic subject, but in a nice sense. There is also, like often in the last panel also, we were talking about policies and how policies influence us. I've been looking at policy framework on agroecology for a long time, and I'm quite happy that probably we opened in 2015 when we had the ICCM4, the International Committee on Management of Chemicals. We had this book by Pesticide Action Network called Replacing Chemicals with Biology, which opened a big way into agroecology policy spaces. And today, it is quite interesting that there are very interesting targets by various legally binding instruments. One, the CBD, the Convention on Biodiversity. Kunming-Montreal Global Framework says that by 2030, which is the target 7, reducing the highly hazardous pesticides is a global target for governments. And the same thing, if you look at the framework, it says phasing out of highly hazardous pesticide by 2027, 75% has to be phased out in member countries. We also have targets of, after the strategic approach for international chemicals management, we have the new global framework on chemicals, which talks about phasing out of highly hazardous pesticides. Again, means agroecology is the solution which is to be offered by the global framework. And lastly, in the climate conference in Dubai, we see the food system reforms, and again talks about agroecology. So in such an important time, we have the panel with, I am not taking the liberty with the 30 minutes delay of explaining a lot about my panelists, but again, a quick start. Rajendra Hegde is a farmer and an entomologist. And we have Sruthi Pillai. Sruthi also comes from a scientific, technical and science background, talking about the agroecology work. Then we have Shamika. Shamika is a good friend, and she's from my states. Probably we stole her from Maharashtra to Kerala, so she's now in Kerala and working out of Kerala to do much. And also in the Indian context, she spent a long time with Organic Farmers Association of India, now moved on to global work. Then Sijo is again bringing the science background. Then we have Galih talking about bringing the experience from Indonesia. So I'll request the first panelist, Shamika, to start.
Okay. Anything that is working?
Okay.
Is that working?
Which one?
Hello? Hello. Hello, do you hear me now? Okay, great. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here. A few new faces, a few known faces, and a wonderful panel here. I really enjoyed the morning session and not wasting more time because we are already running late. Can we have my presentation? Yes, so anyhow, I'll begin because I am a researcher turned organic farmer, as Jayakumar just mentioned. And I was doing my master's in biodiversity when I realized how important the biodiversity was with the organic farming, and went out of my academic career to take a PhD. And while doing my PhD in Eastern Maharashtra, I realized the academics are not actually my cup of tea, but I actually would like to work with farmers and then aspire to be a farmer myself. And my life journey took me such that I met a man who is a farmer and then became a farmer myself with him in the family. So, as Sultan Ismail sir just said, we managed me. So, I started managing myself and my resources that I had in hand. And we started doing farming. Next, please. So yes, I do now with Ilyas, my husband, we do 4 acres of traditional rice varieties on a leased farmland. We both don't come from any farming families, but he learned from different organic farmers in Kerala. I learned from different organic farmers nationally, and we decided to start our own family farm. So in our family farm, we have traditional rice varieties. And I don't know who mentioned beginning. Again, Sultan sir mentioned about fortified rice, but traditional varieties, if any one of you know, we had 1,10,000 varieties of traditional rice varieties in India many years back. But due to the advent of hybrid seeds and genetically modified seeds, gradually we lost all of them. And now almost there is 7,000 is the number which says about the traditional rice varieties in India. And Dr. Debal Deb is one scientist, ecologist, and a farmer himself who is conserving more than 1,400 traditional rice varieties. And so from them, also few from Kerala is what we are growing here. And I would like to just mention one variety which is called Raktashali, just to give you an example of how the nutrients in a rice are so important. I have come from a city life where I always had a hemoglobin levels very down and always needed tablets, which was the only source that I knew about at that time from the city life. And whenever I took the medicines, the iron content would increase, hemoglobin would come to normal. But when I stop the medicine, it will again go down. But since I started doing farming of Raktashali and all the traditional rice varieties and doing physical work and eating that Raktashali rice by growing myself, my hemoglobin increased and is stabilized now. I don't need any medicines any longer, and I'm perfectly fine with the health. So, like this, there are many other varieties. I'm not going into the detail. That takes another 3 hours. Next, please. So yeah, and in our farm, we use all the recycling methods. So we have Jivamrutam and Bijamrutam that we use. Bijamrutam is mainly for the nursery saplings. It's a decoction of cow dung, cow urine, pulse powder, jaggery, and a handful of soil from the local soil. And Jivamrutam is also such a formulation which you can Google it up. There is a lot of scientific evidence showing what of microbes are there in both the formulations and how do they benefit in the strength and resistance of the varieties. Next, please. Yeah, next. This is just the nursery and the harvest that we grew. And along with the production of rice that we do, we also do it with the community. So we call it We Grow Your Rice campaign. It's adapted from IFOM Organics International. But in that, there is local communities who invest some amount of money. Like, for example, if you want 5 kilos of rice or 10 kilos of rice for a year in your family, you invest 5,000 in the production of the rice. We are transparent with all the processes for them to understand how it is grown. And then at the end of the harvest, we just return to them. And in this way, our risk that is the farmer takes on the ground is shared by everybody, including the consumers. And along with production, we also have these traditional rice varieties that I was mentioning. So we have around 76 traditional rice varieties now growing on the farm. 40 of them are from Dr. Debal, and he has helped us, trained us in characterization, rice characterization for maintaining the purity of each variety. Because over the years, actually, in the past generation, a lot of farmers, all these traditional rice varieties were made by the selection of the farmers. It's not a natural selection, but by the human artificial selection, by the intelligent eyes of farmers. So that's again my another presentation, which I will not go into details, but these are all the traditional rice varieties that we grow. Next, please. And the characterization all these varieties are about. Next, please. Yeah, and this is also an interesting thing. The straw that we get from the rice varieties is the main resource, and it goes to the cows, and also cows' dung and urine is used for the formulation. So it's basically a cyclic economy that works all the time in the organic farm. Next, please. And also, I would like to mention Purayede Krushi. Purayida means house, and Krushi means farming. So every house in Kerala traditionally had almost less than an acre around their house, and they had a system where there were perennial shrubs, herbs, and the ground cover and tubers underground, which were maintained such that there is maximum harvest of sunlight and also having food security and nutritional security all around the year. So this is how the system used to work in the past in Kerala. Unfortunately, gradually the system has eroded, and now you just see coconut trees and banana trees, and underneath cover is all gone. But in Kerala, if you have come, you will see only coconut trees and areca nut trees, but the diversity is all gone. So we are trying to revive this on our small 20 cent of land. Next, please. I'll not go into the detail. But here in Kerala, you have even proverbs stating where to grow which crops. So under the mango tree, they suggest to grow turmeric, and under the jackfruit tree, they suggest to grow ginger. And there's a proverb with the traditional knowledge, it's been passed over generations. And I come to know from my husband, who has again got it from different traditional farmers. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is our 20 cent patch. If you just see, you will feel, oh, what is this, like a cluster of things. But if you go into the detail, there are a lot of crops. There is moringa, sweet potato, air potato, lesser yam, violet yam, and n number of 70 different varieties of crops that are grown on a small patch of land. Next slide, please. And this is also a little bit of modern but reusable plastic buckets that we have used. These are the paint plastic buckets, where we put again the mixture of dry leaves and green leaves with a compost. And we have put changualappan. It's a traditional chilli variety from Kerala, which yields us good as well as gives us economy to maintain the balance between the traditional and the modern systems. Next, please. And yeah, these are all the traditional recipes that we grow with our traditional rice varieties, as well as the violet yam and the different tubers, which I don't have pictures for. Next slide, please. And all these that we are doing is just a small part, but Organic Farming Association of India is the most pioneering organic farm. Like me, there are several others, more than 4,000 individuals, as well as 200 plus organizations, organic farmer organizations who have come together since 2002. There are many pioneering leaders who built this movement in the past. One of them is here, Sultan Ismail. But also there is Claude Alvarez, and from Karnataka, if I have to mention, it is Brahma Gaudra, Raghava, also Babu, and many others. From Tamil Nadu, Nammalwar, many have passed away now, and we are second generation leadership in this Organic Farming Association of India, taking the movement ahead nationally. But here also we try to see that there are organic farmers leading the way, because we don't like to talk, but we like to do it on the ground. Next slide, please. And similarly, like Jayakumar mentioned, we have internationally INOFO, it is Intercontinental Network of Organic Farmers Organization. It's a self-organized structure within IFOAM Organics International, and we are in 72 countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America, Europe, North America, and Oceania Pacifica. And so if I have to calculate, it is approximately 5.2 million organic farming families that I'm representing here. And similar work that I'm doing here on my farm, there are similar people doing around the world. So you can imagine if we cut down, I don't know how much carbon and calculations you can do, that we have helped to conserve in the soil and not get into the greenhouse gases by not using the chemical fertilizers and pesticides. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is just the INOFO Council. We are in 18 council members, 3 per continent, to coordinate the work, all volunteers. Next slide. Yes, so these are all the affiliations. Nationally Organic Farming Association of India, Participatory Guarantee Systems, that is PGS Organic India. I think there's also a presenter tomorrow. And IFOAM Asia for the Asia work, and International for the IFOAM International work. And Organic Farmers Association internationally is called INOFO, where we always say that organic farmers who have the decision-making power within the organization is where we consider as INOFO. Next slide, please. Yeah, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. This is just a bit in the iceberg, but we have to do a lot of things together. So very happy to connect to new people and new audiences here today. Thank you so much.
A small logistic announcement. There is a signal which tells you the time. So she will point you. So the next time, please take it. It is quite interesting to say that the individual farmer connected with the global work and how she transforms and how she sees from a me to the larger people, so as Professor put it. Next is Galih from Indonesia. Before Galih takes the podium, in Trivandrum, we did a small calculations on numbers. Sometimes numbers help. The city does composting at homes, and there is a active program by the city corporation and the Department of Agriculture of promoting homestead or rooftop gardens. And we looked at the numbers to see is there any immediate climate impact which we can talk. And we did a presentation in Glasgow. We found that if the city of Trivandrum grows 6 vegetables, which can be grown without even without any effort, not the effort which agroecology farmer takes, do nothing kind of a backyard farming. what we found was the city of Trivandrum will save around 22,000 metric tons equivalent global greenhouse gases by way of saving of the transport of vegetables from that place to here. And then the quantity of kitchen waste managed to through aerobic composting, so methane emission saved. So there is a very interesting point of gardeners in the city talks. More than what they do, they have a huge global implication in terms of saving the green gas emissions. So over to you.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Kumar, for the chance, and also I'd like to thank Gaia for supporting me and giving me an opportunity to share with you all about my movement in Indonesia. Like Mr. Kumar say, my name is Galih. I'm a farmer, but I'm only part-time farmer actually, because the half time I need to teach in high school. So aside from farmer, I'm also a high school teacher in Sociopreneurship High School. It's called 21 Sociopreneurship High School. I teach Earth Awareness subject and philosophy. So if you want to know more, you can check our Instagram at 21 High School. Okay, I would like to share with you an experience and a story on what happens in my city, Bandung City. We've been doing urban farming work and managing the resource, like Mr. Sultan says. We can call it waste. We call it organic resources. We've been doing it for more or less 10 years. But before we do some changes, it all starts with problems. And because from the problems, it comes concerns that the background or why we are doing this work. The concern comes from when I see a lot of fact about waste in Bandung City. In Bandung City alone, in a day, we can produce 1,500 tons to 1,600 tons a day. So 1,000, 1,500 tons and 1,000, 1,600 tons a day. That means it's about 45,000 a month, and it's about 540,000 tons in a year. Most of it consists of 44% of organic waste, 16% or so plastic waste, and 13% paper waste, and the rest is a mix between electronic waste, hazardous waste, residual waste, and etc. And 66% of it, actually goes to the landfill. So from 540,000, 66% of it goes to the landfill. We had landfill in 2005 called Louis Gajah. Now we are using Sarimukti landfill from 2006 to now. And now and why we use Sarimukti landfill now? Because in 2005 there's a tragedy. We can next slide. So in 2005 there's a tragedy in Louis Gajah. There's a landslide disaster triggered by an explosion caused by a concentration of methane gas inside the landfill. It created an explosion, it blows up, and it buried two settlements, Cilimus and Kampung Pojok, and claimed the life of 157 people. And this is caused by 66%, mostly it's mixed, not segregated properly. So the organic waste and inorganic waste are put together there and create fermentation and create a methane gas. Where did it come from? Next slide. Okay, it comes from Bandung City actually. From all those waste, almost most of it comes from Bandung City. Almost 63 to 72%. The waste entering the Sarimukti landfills come from the city of Bandung. And the rest is from Bandung Subdistrict, from Cimahi, Northern Bandung, and etc. But most of it comes from cities, which is Bandung City. Why does it come from Bandung City? Because Bandung City is famous for being a tourist destination by local tourists or international tourists. So we have a lot of entertainment district, we have a lot of restaurants, and etc. So it creates most of the waste comes to the landfill. And the condition in Sarimukti landfill is actually 700% more than its capacities. So now it's overflowing. It's 700% more than the capacities it can contain. Okay, next. Now, considering this fact, it can be concluded that the city of Bandung is still in a state of waste emergency, actually. If a solution is not found quickly, Bandung could face a condition called Bandung Lautan Sampah, or Bandung the Sea of Waste, if we are not doing anything in this condition. Next. How do we solve this? The government actually already create a lot of initiatives. One is magotization. We are using black soldier fly maggots to convert the organic waste. And also there is a Kang Pisman program where we are sorting and segregating waste and utilizing it, depend on the waste. And additionally, the Buruan Saya program, who encourage the community to engage in urban farming activities. So the government actually already doing something to counter these problems. Next. Next, please. However, all those efforts still focus on food waste and organic waste. And there's currently no program dedicated to utilizing yard waste. That's what our community do. We are actually trying to convince people and informing people about the value of yard waste. And it's very big problem in Bandung because there is no data, there's no research on it. And usually people just burn it in their neighborhood or throw it in the river, which cause flood. I'm also affected by the flood, mud flood actually. It goes knee deep, it's very deep because of the flood, because of the accumulation of yard waste that's been turned to the rivers. Next. That's why we're here. We have 5 important missions, but most of it is actually spreading information and raising awareness about the importance of yard waste processing and management. And we're also trying to create an alternative food system, actually. Because the food waste, it's also coming from a poor food system. That's what happened in Bandung also. That's why we are also trying to create an alternative food system. We are trying to implement a CSA food system, where the farmers are directly connected with some of the consumers. We're also providing spaces to research and development for university students or high school students to explore a lot of things about organic waste. Next. The initiative, we have Seni Tani and Seribu Kebun, next, to realize those missions. And Seribu Kebun focus on creating offline-online platform for sharing and networking by using social media, WhatsApp group, and a lot of activities. Next. And we also focus on yard waste processing and management by using aerobic hot composting. We call it lasagna compost because we layer it like lasagna. The carbon in the bottom, and we use coffee grounds. We're not using animal manure. Why? Because we're living in a housing area. If we use animal manure, the neighbor will complain. So we try to find the alternative by using used coffee grounds. Because when I Google it, I try to know what contains inside the used coffee grounds. It contains a lot of nitrogen actually. It can maybe use as an alternative ingredient for making a hot composting. We're also transforming some of the yard waste, like the bigger sticks, into biochar by using double retort system, pyrolysis. So it can reduce the emission caused by making the biochar. Next. Yeah, one more. And also Seni Tani, we are focusing on providing alternative marketplace and food system for local SMEs and smallholder farmers by implementing CSA and the regenerative farming principle to support yard waste processing system. Why? Because this waste processing system or resource processing system cannot stand alone. They have to stay connected to the food system because that's where most of the waste comes from. Okay, next. One more slide. In our journey, we already produced about 11 tons of, we produced 5 tons of compost. That means we are using 11 tons of organic resources, and we managed to produce about 1.5 tons of vegetables from those waste, compost waste. And it's in 913 square meters of idle land, because in Indonesia there are a lot of idle land, public land and private land, who is not being used by the owners. So we're using that too. Okay, next. This is our team. That's me, the director of the CEEW Kebun. We have Mentari, Fania, Anggita, Mede, and Fatan. We're all our young people. Next. And this is the closing statement. This is my favorite from Robert Swan. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. And I agree with Mr. Sultan that the most important is the human. If the human have the awareness and willing to do some changes, then everything will follow. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Galih, and very interesting and very impressive work, I should say. And also on a personal note, Bandung is one of my favorite cities in Indonesia for a very different reason. One of my colleague, Shibu, went there for the first Zero Waste meeting, and he got arrested, and we had a nightmare about taking him out along with the other four Gaya. I mean, it was a Gaya delegation who came there. So anyway, so any name has different meanings. Like when you talk about all the nice agroecology work, I was thinking about the couple of days where we have to deal with taking somebody out. Anyway, so now we have Sruthi Pillai talking about the hub and spoke design they did in Alleppey. And it is also very interesting, like one of the problems which we are facing today, the paradigm of the current food system has created around, if you look at 2019, we had around 805 million people on hunger. And that is what the numbers we always talk about. And with the two wars, now the numbers have increased to around 840 to 850 million hunger. But that is the what we talk a lot about in the calorie numbers of hungry. But if you look at nutrition deficiency, out of the 7 point couple of millions, so 7 billion plus, 2 billion plus, almost 2.5 billion people are hunger or they are deficient in nutrition. And so that is why the whole agroecology plays a huge role in the system of the food system transformation, where nutrition and health becomes a key point. Over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you to Gaya, Shibu, and for inviting us here and giving us a platform to present our work. Can you go to the previous slide, please? The title slide. Yeah. So this work is a nutrient circularity project. And before delving into the project, I'll just start a bit about myself. I'll just take a minute or so. So I am basically, like Jayakumar sir said, I am a disillusioned environmental engineer. I was a biotechnology engineer. From there, I went to environmental because I got disillusioned with biotechnology and GM and genetically modified. And then I came into environmental governance, hoping that what technology can't solve, policy and governance can solve. So that is the path which I'm on right now, and I have to say that it isn't as easy as I thought it would be, because technology is the easy part. It is actually making things happen on the ground, which is the challenging aspect of it. And in that respect, I am honored to be here because I am standing amongst practitioners, activists, and people from the grassroots who are actually making things happen. And as a researcher, I feel that there is a lot that academia can learn and codify into knowledge. Because as an environmental engineer or as an engineer or an environmental science student also, many of the knowledge which is being distributed, generated, and transmitted in platforms like these, it doesn't reach students and children. And so that is, by saying that, let me jump right into the project. So this is an organic waste nutrient circularity project in which Noora, Sri Lakshmi, and I was involved. And this was possible due to a grant from K2A Knowledge to Action program of Swissnex Foundation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this question of why nutrient circularity is something which has been discussed already. And by nutrient circularity, I'll just delve a bit more into what we mean by it. That is, the project advocates the transfer of nutrients which are in the form of solid waste which is generated in urban areas, to transfer those nutrients into compost and use that compost in rural areas. And this is being envisioned through a hub and spoke model, which I'll be talking about later. And what if the nutrient remains in the solid waste is something which Freud talked about earlier, as in it can lead to urban flooding, it can lead to poor agricultural productivity and lead to public health problems also. And that has been well documented. Next slide. So the question then becomes, can we close the loop? And this is not a new question. And this is not a question which we are asking. No, this has been tried and retried time and again from I don't know, times immemorial, when people from my mother's generation, my grandmother's generation, all throughout India, and I'm sure amongst all throughout the eastern countries also, they use the waste which is generated for their plants in their yard, in their garden, and then use those nutrients to cultivate the next batch of plants and vegetables. So the idea is to replicate that again. And recently, when I was going through the news, I saw that something along similar lines has been done already in Karnataka. There is a district called Chikballapur in Karnataka, wherein waste, that is solid waste, organic solid waste from the city, it was given to the farmers. The farmers used it for composting, for producing compost, and the compost was used in their farm. So this is not a new concept. What we are trying to do in this particular project, which I was involved in, was to understand the feasibility of replicating this model in the context of a town called Alappuzha in Kerala. Kerala is one of the southernmost states of India. It is a tourist hub, and also it is a pioneer in decentralized solid waste management. I wouldn't say it is happening perfectly, not at all, but still something is happening. Something is better than nothing, sort of thing, So the next slide. So this is the current waste management model in Alappuzha. So what happens is, one good thing about the town is that people segregate. People segregate, and some of them throw the segregated waste because they don't know what to do with it. That is another story. But at least people segregate. Some of them, they process the organic waste in their homes, whereas others who don't have space, because Alappuzha is a very densely populated city, they deposit it in these aerobic units. And each of those bins which you see here, those are composting bins. This model was developed by Kerala Agricultural University. It's called the Tumburmozhi model, in which waste as well as dry leaves are layered, an inoculum is added, and then it is turned by the municipality conservancy workers. And then at the end of 120 days, the organic waste which is from our kitchens is converted into compost. Now the problem in Alappuzha is, there is compost, whatever be the quality, but they don't know what to do with it. With so much compost generated, and there are around 300 bins like this across the city, serving different wards of the city. So there is approximately 250 tons of waste compost which is generated a year, and the municipality doesn't really know what to do with it. As I said, densely populated with canals, and there's no space. There's no space to dump that particular compost which is generated, because the town can only take up that much for their terrace gardening. Next slide, please. So that is why a hub and spoke model, it was envisioned that let's have a hub and spoke model, wherein hub is the Alappuzha municipality, wherein the waste is turned to compost, and spokes are the different panchayats, villages across near Alappuzha. And so the compost which is generated in the town can be transported and used for agricultural purposes in these spokes. Next slide, please. So I'll not go into the details. I'll talk about the findings. So basically, out of all these 4 different panchayats which are near the town, we decided to select the most, lowest hanging fruit theory. You try to find the one which is easiest to work with. And because of that, we did a criteria ranking method, and by that we identified a panchayat called Kannikuri Panchayat. And Kannikuri is renowned in Kerala only because there are the farmers there. Majority of the farmers there, they already practice organic farming. They are used to that way of farming. They are used to using natural materials, recycling materials. Many of them are already using compost, which is generated in their premises for their plants. Many of them, they practice polycultures. They are into vegetable farming. And the most interesting aspect is that all these areas, they have sandy soil which has very low water retention capacity, and they use this compost to enhance the soil texture. So compost is acting not only as a nutrient, for providing nutrients, but also in conditioning the soil. So that's why we selected Kanipuri Panchayat as one of the spoke areas, and the hub is Alapi municipality. Next, please. So this is the photos from Kanipuri where we went. Now that you can see is one of the vegetable farming thing, and mulching by using straw. It is practiced here. We talk to, and on the right side, if you see, that is the difference between the soil which is there and the soil into which the soil conditioner or compost has been added. And the team, including Noora and Sri Lakshmi, they went to the field. They talked to the farmers there. They tried to understand their aspirations and needs. Should such a program be implemented? It has not yet been implemented, but first it was important to understand their perspective, their expectations, if suppose such a program is coming into place. And that's why they went there, conducted a focus group discussion with farmers and all. Next, please. And so these are the findings, very, very preliminary sort of findings. The project is still ongoing. And if we see in the hub area, the challenge was that there is compost, but the quality was abysmal. When you check the compost, the NPK values are very low. The texture also, it has not been cured in many places. It has not been kept for curing. Many places there is the aerobic bins do stink. There is anaerobic processes happening. So all that pointed to not proper O&M, taking place. So the suggestions which we had for the municipality in that case was that you have to streamline the source level supply side O&M challenges. However, there were enablers also. There were certain factors which are enablers. For example, during the course of this project, we talked to health department officials who were involved in maintaining these aerobic bins. They were all very supportive for the idea that let us do this, let us take this compost from here to there, let us transport it there, let it be used. Because once they have such a goal in place, they themselves said that we'll be motivated to produce better quality compost, because now it is produced for a purpose. Right now we don't know endino vendi talakina sambar. That is the term which they used. Endino vendi talakina sambar means for some reason the sambar is boiling, we don't know what. That's how they were doing it. There was no reason for them to put effort into producing quality compost. So there is institutional support. There are people who are willing to put efforts into it. That is what we found. There are. Sorry, time is over. Yeah. Okay, and just one more slide. and in enablers, if we previous slide. And in enablers, if we see, as I said, there is a precedence of organic farming, and the point which I want to make is institutional support from the Krishi Bhavans. In Kanipuri Panchayat, we found that there is support not only from the state government like Krishi Bhavan, but also NGOs called Gandhi's Marga Kendram. There are many NGOs who are working with the organic farmers there. So all those are, positive aspects of it, and challenges, yes, the same. Next. So finally, I would just like to say just one point. It is so all the logistics side aside, we can have an integrated supply chain management system. All that is fine, but we also found that it is all very personality centric. If there is a health officer who cares for the environment, who wants to do something about waste management and agriculture, it will happen. What if that guy is transferred? What if he resigns? Then what? How do we make it sustainable? So that is why there is a need to devise institutional mechanisms and codify them into policies. Local, state, national. Local, it can be bylaws, municipality bylaws. State, there is a Kerala Agricultural University package of practices. You inculcate, you add those, codify those ideas of composting into the package of practices, tell it to farmers as well as Krishi Bhavan officials. The third is the national level. There is a national sustainable farming mission for the government of India. So for which these are the different programs which come under it. So these are the places where it can be codified, and policies can be leveraged for actually making this happen on the ground. So my time is up here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shruti. And
Can you show me that slide, please? Last slide. Sorry, I'm really sorry. And I just wanted to show the last. Yeah, so I just wanted to show that this is one of the farmers we talked to, Asha, that is Noora, and that is Sri Lakshmi. And they have worked really hard on this project, and I would like to thank them and Asha for giving us all these insights. Thank you.
thank you, Shruti, and quite interesting to see this work. And you are absolutely right with BPKP. I think it is slightly getting mainstreamed, and my organization has the pleasure to work with around 545 Krishi Bhavans under the BPKP. So now we move to Sijo, who has been looking at sustainable food systems. And at a personal level, he's in the right place in Bangalore because he loves coffee and like to visit cafes. But the other good thing is that during his work, he could really mobilize the Rajasthan state into doing something like a national natural farming mission. As Sruthi just touched upon, in India right now, we have a national natural farming movement, and the federal government is putting a lot of investment on it. But from my state, I'm very happy that 2009 Kerala created the first organic farming policy in India. And as many other things, we slept, and we are now looking at all other states, whether they are making one and doing it. And Sijo was quite impressive in getting around 6,000 million Indian rupees allocated for a state for natural farming. So a very commendable achievement in terms of policy work.
Thank you. Thank you for that very kind introduction, Jayakumar. And it is an honor to be here on the stage today, sharing with this eminent panelists. And I'm very excited to share some of the work that we have been doing at the Council of Energy, Environment and Water. My name is Sijo Abraham, and I work as a program associate at the Council on Energy, Environment and Water. Can we go on to the next slide? A quick brief about us. We are a not-for-profit think tank based out of Delhi who are impacting sustainable development at scale with data, integrated analysis, and strategic outreach to explain the use, reuse, and misuse of resources. With a multidisciplinary team of around 330 people, we work across three big categories. One is looking at large-scale transformation. Second is improving the quality of life. And third, to establish enabling environment for the right transition to happen at scale. Can we go on to the next slide? The Indian agriculture definitely is one of the biggest culprits when it comes to looking at the greenhouse gas emissions. But if you expand the Indian agriculture beyond the production systems and include the water, energy, food nexus, we see that it contributes to around 24% of the net GHG emissions from the country. Further problems around regional concentration of certain crops have led to negative outcomes. For example, the groundwater in Punjab is estimated to run out by in the next 22 years, just because of the unjudicious extraction rates. Especially coupled with livelihoods, because agriculture becomes the key to livelihood security in the country, the increasing debt cycle of the farmers and the high cost of production systems that the farmers currently are looking at further complicates the situation. And the panelists have already sort of spoken about the key challenges when it comes to nutrition. Apart from the triple burden of malnutrition, we are also looking at key challenges when it comes to looking at healthy diets in both accessibility and affordability of these healthy diets. Can you go on to the next slide? As Professor Ismail in the morning spoke about very eloquently how soil health is one of the key challenges that we currently are facing, and it is one of the most urgent threats. I'm not going to get into the details, but in the past years, sustainable agriculture practices and systems have emerged as a solution to address the deteriorating soil health and provide nutritional security for the system. Can you go to the next slide? 7 out of 17 sustainable development goals cannot be achieved without managing soil properly. And thereby it is imperative for us as a system to imagine how can we enable better soil health across the country and look at the triple win for livelihoods, nutrition, and environment. Next slide. Next. CEEW recently launched the Sustainable Agriculture in India report in 2021. In this landmark report, we analyzed 16 different agroecological practices and characterize the current status of adoption and the impact that it can create when it comes to the various parameters that agriculture is looking after. However, one of the key findings from the study was there are over 300 different definitions of what sustainable agriculture means. And this multiplicity of ideas creates confusion on ground. However, next. When you look at soil health, it is a unifier and a key performance indicator across these multiple practices, whether we look at organic farming, agroforestry, or natural farming. Specifically focusing on natural farming with the current political opportunities and the launch of the National Mission on Natural Farming with a budget outlay of 1,500 INRs CR to aiming to transition around 1 million farmers to natural farmers in the next 3 years, there is an opportunity for us to understand how we can leverage upon natural farming to improve soil health and to deliver on the multiple national outcomes. One of the flagship programs of Andhra Pradesh Community National Farming uses 9 different agroecological principles. And one of the key features that they focus on is on how to improve soil health on farm. Interventions like mulching, zero tillage, biostimulants, or diverse crop and tree plantations not only help in improving the soil health, but it also provides additional revenue for the farmers, hence providing resilience in their incomes. Next slide. CEEW has been supporting the national farming movement by devising policy strategies and pathways on scaling up the natural farming movement. Next. One of our landmark study, which is a longitudinal impact assessment of community managed natural farming program in Andhra Pradesh, is using randomized controlled trials with a sample size of around 4,000 farmers over 5 years to systematically understand the impact natural farming has on environmental, social, and the economic outcomes. Next. Like Sir was already mentioning, we also collaborated with the Chief Minister's Rajasthan Economic Transformation Advisory Council and launched the policy study on sustainable agriculture, which identified that natural farming can be scaled up in 12 districts of western and southern Rajasthan. And these districts were selected basically because they had a very high feasibility in adoption and implementation of the program and had low risks when it comes to looking at lack of evidence. We have also sort of tabulated some of the key benefits that the state would receive with this transition. And of course, we might not be interested in numbers, but the state governments are really interested in those numbers. And with a mere transition of 20% of farmers to natural farming, the state can benefit around 781 crores in subsidies, specifically focusing on power subsidy because of the reduced water that is used in natural farming systems. However, Green Revolution provided us with a lot of food security post the famine of 1960s, but it also led to some serious problems, and one of them being the regional concentration of certain crops. If you look, the Indo-Gangetic plains alone account for over 85% of the rice wheat cropping systems that are practiced in Asia, and around over 60% of sugar grain is just grown in Uttar Pradesh and Maharashtra. While water-abundant states like UP, Bihar, and Jharkhand are not able to promote the scale-up of rice production because they lack in institutional procurement and processing structures. Therefore, crop diversification, and as one of the panelists was also talking about, strategies around crop rotation and intercropping can come as one of the ways to address this. We recently concluded a systematic review of over 60 research articles, and one of the key things that we found that inclusion of legumes in the existing cropping pattern of rice and wheat can add nitrogen to the soil while reduce the depletion of potassium and phosphorus. This strategy can be implemented in the Indo-Gangetic Plains itself to build resilience for the incomes for the farmers while addressing the soil health challenges that the state currently is going through. However, there is a lot of understanding of what it means to be healthy soils, but action at a national level remains limited. Soil is still looked as a physico-chemical bed or an input to the agriculture system, whilst the biology that we are all now very familiar with from Professor Ismail's talk is absent in national dialogue. CEEW recently developed the National Roadmap for Soil Health Management, which was done in consultation with over 200 stakeholders across 3 different agroclimatic zones in the country. And we have developed a strategy for the next 5 and 10 years, where we want to look at initiatives like Meri Mati Abhiyan, making soil action a people's movement, to recalibrate incentives for value chain actors and innovation and evidence building. I will not get into the details of this. In addition to that, what we have also done is we have mapped extensive roles and responsibilities for stakeholders, because when it comes to making soil, healthy soil a national agenda, a need for concerted action is necessary. Currently, the ministries are working in silos, and these work that is happening in silos often creates inefficiencies and untargeted approach towards it. What we need is we need to build consensus on the definition and framework for what it means to be sustainable agriculture, especially now when the private sector is looking at abatement of the scope 3 emissions. We have to focus on changing the narrative from adaptation-led food system transformation to nutrition security-led food system transformation, specifically in the context of India, which is currently struggling to meet the nutritional outcomes for the country. And in the end, agriculture remains highly political, and navigating the political economy is one of the biggest challenges. And how can we generate the political buy-in for creating interventions which can keep farmers at the center of the design remains an imperative step towards achieving resilience in the food systems. And in the words of Shankubai in the morning, like she called herself the doctor of the waste, and the farmer remains the doctor of the soil. And they are the ones who understand, and what we need as a society is to build that enabling system so innovation can happen on ground, and that innovation can be fostered and scaled up through institutional and governance mechanisms. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sijo, and with pleasure I invite our last speaker from the panel, Rajendra Hegde. He's a farmer by birth, but he did his PhD in entomology, and he's also one of the founder trustee of the green landscapes in the urban landscape in Bangalore. And without wasting time, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, fellow panelists and the audience today. I am here because of Dr. Vishwanath. The next slide. See, a visionary. Actually, he thought of probably converting all the barren terraces into good green spaces. I joined him in 2005, 20 years now. Lots of work that what we have done, probably many of you have spoken, but what we have done in Bengaluru, and particularly touching the more privileged, more learned, more educated, not easy. So Savita was telling, the issue is that we are working with these kind of people. Probably as a scientist that I work a lot with farmers, that is much easier. But working with this kind of people is much more difficult. So there, what we have done over years, probably Dr. Vishnu started in 1995, but he was telling always the first 10 years was not that easy. We all joined him in 2005, and then we discussed, we brainstormed, and what to do. How can we convince the urbanites to do many more works and other things? So you can move quickly. So he was probably initially was doing the workshops and other things, and to building awareness in the initial stages. And he started his own biofertilizer unit, so that he can tell people that these are all the things that you should do, avoid chemicals and other things. It is not the purpose of urban gardening. Urban gardening is for safe food. Urban gardening is for functional food. Urban gardening is to have a green spot around. Urban gardening is for environment friendly practices, to promote environment friendly practices, all those things. But basically, of course, the people used to come and they attend the workshops and other things, and it did not take off that well. 2005, we joined Dr. Vishwanath, few of us, and slowly that we started building on this aspect as a movement, so that we can take it up with more and more people. Next. So all these things, of course, he wrote a small handbook of terrace gardening, and he was not very comfortable, because that was the knowledge at that moment. So somewhere in 2002, 2003, whatever knowledge that he had, that he wrote a small book, and he always used to tell, no, we have much more experience today, and probably it has to be revised as a handbook, as a practical guide or something like that. Of course, that there is lots more thing. In 2011, that we started, as the Jayakumar was telling, that we started an organization called Garden City Farmers. From there, I think it took off so much in Bengaluru, more particularly to work on urban foodscapes. See, Bengaluru, garden city, and every household has gardens and other things. And we try to focus little more, making people understand. See, when it comes to food, particularly when it comes to safe food, functional food, people are more interested. So instead of having, not that as a scientist, as a farmer, that we are against the ornamentals, lawn and other things, but something that what we can use in our kitchen, probably more interesting for the urbanized to use their small spaces, maybe a balcony or a terrace or a small kitchen gardening space around. So there we try to convince, promote more as urban foodscapes. So that way all those mission and so is fine. But few points that we seriously brought among the urbanites. See, taking the example of Bengaluru, from 1996, 97% to maybe 2-3% today, the greenery, what happened? The people who are born and brought up, I am not a Bengalorean. The people who are born and brought up in Bengaluru have seen this change over a period of time. So there, that we try to bring in that this is what happened over a period of time. There is a responsibility on all of us to build it back. So that is where of course, the study of ISC, lots of research, and of course, maybe little more logarithms and other things may be there, but it's a reality. What happened to greenery? What happened to water? So where we have to probably intervene, work with the community, all those things that we try to bring in. Then when it comes to greenery, why not food crops? That's what I said. So we were more fascinated, particularly Dr. Vishwanath. He was wed to the principle of growing food crops in small spaces, particularly containers. So then the idea of growing food crops in containers. There's lots of, probably as scientists, that whatever we know as farmers, that we brought in terms of growing containers. That's all. Otherwise, there is no much variation of growing plants in the ground and growing in the containers. Maybe little more innovations and other things. That's fine. Next one. So variety of crops that you can grow. Probably made some pictures and other things shown it. And of course, in the process of making little more interesting to the urbanites, that we had to bring in some of this. This is what I was telling. The brainstorm. So what should come into the presentations? What should come into the workshops? So that we can convince. See, Dr. Vishwanath always used to tell, how part is always there. And many of us know that. Why part is not there. So we have to tell the urbanites why you should do it quickly and other things. So that way the farmers are moving around. farmers are moving to the cities, and they are having, particularly young farmers, they are having agriculture in their blood, but they are not into agriculture. So that way, probably there could be food crisis over a period of time. So it is just, we know that it's not going to happen, but at least to convince urbanites that we started telling that yes, the food is not easy. The food what you are eating is not safe. So there are so many problems and other things. We are using too much of chemicals into our agriculture, too much of soaps and other things into our next slide. So all those things, of course, as it is not just growing food crop, but bringing awareness among urbanites about the methods, the practices that what we are following, probably making the food more toxic, unsafe. So that way the issues of waste. So when it comes to urban farming, it is not just growing food. So it is about water, it is about environment, it is about generating waste, it is about following green lifestyle, all those things. Probably next one. So many of these pictures speak, I need not speak about all these things. Yes, madam, I know. All these things said, the food what we are getting is not from a good source of water, all those things. Next slide. Let these pictures speak. See all these problems. Next one. Next. So grow what you eat what you grow. Movement throughout the world. So this is not just that what we are doing in Bengaluru, but the issue is that we try to promote this very seriously among the urbanites since 1995, but since 2005 very seriously. Next one. Of course, these things, next workshops and other things, national seminars that we did, 2-3 national seminars in Bengaluru, in Mumbai, in Chennai. In Bengaluru, we conducted so many workshops, state seminars. Next one. Next. Then the event called Uta from your Tota. So many of you are not familiar with Kannada word. Uta is food, Tota is garden. So Uta from your Tota is food from your garden. So many people used to tell, so if we come there, can we get our food? No. Uta from your Tota is how can you learn to have garden so that you can use that particular material in your kitchen. So that way that we started the movement since 2011. Till today, we have conducted about 47 events. This event of Uta from your Tota is about information. This is about organizing the materials for you. This is about, because urbanites is not easy. So you have to search for the seeds, search for the seedlings and all these things. So this kind of information, materials, and of course the people who can support you, the logistics, all those things that we started doing this event, Uta from your Tota. Next one. So because of that only I am here. Few quick slides. So all those things, probably exhibitions and other things, people learn just by seeing, just by learning, because we have seen tomato, we have not seen the tomato plant. At least just by seeing, just by doing all these things, seminars and other things. Next. Yes, collaborated with print media and other things. People are, of course, enthusiastically joined us, helped us to make this movement forward. And of course, next one, quickly. So many, of course, this one and of course, other stakeholders that we have already discussed, the Department of Horticulture, Agriculture, all those things. Next. And many organic terrace gardening groups. This is very important. So you cannot reach out to whole of Bengaluru as a small unit. So we made about groups, 25 organic terrace gardeners groups in different places of Bengaluru. Next. So these kind of activities and private new entrepreneurs came out of this kind of movement. So started supplying the materials, enablers to develop gardens and other things. And of course, in the process that we could probably felicitate few of our good gardeners and other things. If I remember, Hasiru Dala also that part of this kind of felicitation sometime back in 2014, 13, 14 years back. Yes. Next. And of course, many of these things, fine, good, quickly. Or let the people see the pictures. Yes. Home composting, community composting, bring your own cutlery, Swachhagraha Karika Kendra, and of course, Chinnara Kaitota, particularly bringing youngsters. Bringing youngsters into the movement is the big problem. So we're all fighting for bringing youngsters. See, all of us are coming to the exhibitions and other things, not bringing our children to the exhibition. So there it is a big issue. And as a researcher, as a scientist, that we were not knowing anything quickly, not knowing anything, that we brought in our knowledge as farmer, brought in our knowledge as farming scientists into this movement and tried to probably educate the more learned urbanites into little bit of gardening. The idea is not to make you farmers. The idea is to make you understand the difficulties of the farmers. So that's what we have done in last 15, 20 years, seriously. And of course, the response is so good. And Uta from your Tota is one of the much sought events in Bangalore. So there we are happy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And it is a bit of a, personally, I don't like this job of moderating a session because you have to cut people making wonderful presentations. I'll take a moment. We have a question from online live streaming. The question is referring to what Shamika said. It is about make it work. Wow, the plant turmeric under mango tree, plant ginger under jackfruit tree. Where can we get more info on the type of plants that can be planted together for tropical plants? You don't mind I answering it? Yeah. So I think what Shamika said is a specific case in Kerala, where again, like as part of a tribal development program, we were just planting coconut tree in Kollam, and the local farmer had a bunch of turmeric with that because they said you can't plant a tree alone; it need a companion. so there is a whole bunch of local wisdoms comes, and I will say that these wisdoms are very much local specific and culture specific. So you can't just follow the Kerala wisdom of these companion plants across India or across other states, because as a person who has been looking at agroecology in India for at least as part of Pesticide Action Network, even in Asia Pacific, we see the mathematics, the chemistry, the biology totally differ from village to village. It is so diverse. I think one of the key factor or key issue on this whole agroecology is that diversity is the key. So we have around 350 indigenous species of rice, and this is on the border of Kerala, Karnataka, and we, with a little bit of happiness, we got a variety of paddy from Coorg, and we planted, and you won't believe, out of 350 different varieties of paddy, elephant came and picked only one, and that was the one which we got from Coorg. So everyone has its own taste and species. Like we have a rail which nests in paddy, and every time we rotate the variety, it only chooses one variety and it nests there. It doesn't nest on other things. So it's a very complex thing. So all our solutions are very much local specifics. So I'll restrict to 2 or 3 questions at max, please. And I'll take the 3 questions together, and then the panelists will come back to answer.
Thank you so much. I'm Sravasti from Nepal. So I have a typical local questions for you, for the panelists who are basically focused on farming. Basically, due to the excessive use of pesticides and chemical fertilizer, the farmers are compelled to use the fertilizer because there is the degradation of the fertility of the soil due to the excessive use. So I just have one questions on the is the organic farming or the use of the compost in this kind of the land which has a degraded fertility to recover, or maybe straight questions like, will it be possible to recover the fertility of the soil by the use of the compost or organic farming? Because we have a experience in Nepal also. When we say the people, when we convince the farmers to shift towards the organic farming, and they say like, if we are shifting from the chemical fertilizers to the compost or the organic farming, there will be the problem of the invasive diseases in the crops, or invasion of the plants in the crops, so that it will be destroyed. All the crops are destroyed. So is there any possibility of recovering the fertility of the soil through this organic farming? And if yes, then can you, any one of the farmers in the panelist can answer this, like
Who want to go?
experience on this? Thank you.
I'll take the second question because I
Yeah.
think I don't want to open up again for questions. So we are eating into your lunch. Yeah, from Himachal. Any other new person who has not asked a question? Yeah. 3 questions. There it ends. Yeah, I'll come to you.
Yeah. Sorry, Ray Panaligan from Philippines. We have initial conversation with our Department of Agriculture, and basically they discourage using municipal solid waste compost because of the issues of, because it comes from different sources, pathogens, contamination, plastic, microplastic. So, and especially if you're achieving organic certification. So it's a big no-no for the Philippines. So my question is that also the case here in India? How do you deal with these issues coming from compost coming from
Yeah.
municipal waste?
Thank you. You want to go? Here is one more question, which is the last question.
So yeah, hi everyone. So this question is to especially to Mrs. Shruti. So the project which is running through K2A grant regarding composting and all, so there includes operation cost, manpower, and also the transportation cost. So once the grant is over, so how do we, run that? And second, how can IIT Mumbai is supporting or can support, or what is the role of IIT Mumbai in this? Thank you.
So before I pass to the other 2 questions, I think the second question I'll take I can answer. Like I am also a certified, my organization is a certified organic certifier in India as per Government of India approval. So your question is very valid, and that is why the whole key is on segregation. So if you segregate properly, then the urban compost can straight away use folk and without any hassle of or any problem from my certifier on composting. So segregation is the key. And also to you, I think Professor was talking about soil fertility is the case which you said, and he said we need to look at soil health. And for the farmer explanation, I'll give.
No, I think they are much better experienced to answer this question, because this question has been coming since ages, and it's nothing new. And there are so many case studies and real people who have converted. Like I can give you so many. Dr. Claude Alvarez wrote this book first time for the people like you who are asking this question on where is the example, where can we see such people. So in Sambhav is one organized farm in Odisha, where they've created the barren land to fertile, grown, dynamically forested area now. Over the years, it's in Odisha, called Sambhav. Everybody called it Asambhav, and then they purposefully called the name as Sambhav because it is possible. And as Sultan Ismail already said, it's about soil health. So it's indigenous trees, indigenous tree leaf litter, composting, and all these nutrient cycles over the years. You cannot have it instantly, but over the years for sure you will have it. And there's one more in near Bangalore, which is in Auroville, Pebble Garden. It is Deepika and Bernard. Bernard is also, they are also from the community of Organic Farming Association of India. These are the pioneering cases which people go and visit. There are several others, but just for the practical experience, and it's definitely possible. And if Sultanji or Jayakumar wants to.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you for the question. So firstly, the reason why how IIT comes into the picture is that I am associated with IIT. I was the one who applied and got the grant. So IIT's role is only in facilitating the process of grant distribution. So that is the role in which IIT is, and I am associated with IIT. Another organization which was involved in this particular project is Technology and Governance Support Forum, based out of Alleppey. And the people I showed, they are from tax. So like you said, this is a question which I think many of the NGOs and activists and all the organizations, they struggle with, that how do you now continue a project once the fund is over? How do you then take it to its logical end according to you? And this, I would say we are also struggling with the same, but one thing which has helped is converging the goals of projects together. So that it can, so once this grant becomes over, you converge the goal of this project with another running project, and you find parallels between this so that you can take it up to as much as possible with the help of the second project. Just one more thing. Just one more thing. This is regarding the question about organic this thing. Yeah, very fast I'll say that. I mean, I have very limited experience, but in that, what we found is that organic waste derived compost isn't as much a problem as fecal sludge or septic tank waste, because that is the one which people, farmers, in fact it is happening in Bangalore, wherein fecal sludge is being transported to farmers, and they use it only for non-edible crops. For edible crops, there's of course the problem of pathogen and much, but yeah, again, like I said, limited experience.
And to add, even a hospital waste with pathogens was properly composted, and they did lab tests to prove that there is no pathogen to worry about in the compost. One last thing, over to you, like this network, this Gaia as a family, and along with that Gaia, there is several collaborating agencies. I can tell you with absolute confidence that one of the reasons why natural farming is picking up in India is just because what you said. The farmers has used fertilizers and the fields has become barren, so they better choose the positive option of working with natural farming. So thank you everyone, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Please request Archana, my colleague, to give away the gifts. And while